The question of restructuring what it means to be affiliated with or a quote-unquote member of the Democratic Party, and as you point out, that change in Britain under the Labour Party really helped to surge Jeremy Corbyn, to the astonishment of the pundits, to almost becoming Prime Minister. We talk in the report about the need to democratize inside the party, at least to the extent of eliminating superdelegates to help choose the presidential candidate and so forth, and also democratizing so that, as is clearly the case, what happened in 2016, the DNC can no longer have its thumbs on the scale in the nominating process. That has to end. So we're emphatic about that. I think the question of what it even means to be a member of the Democratic Party is very ambiguous right now, because you can be a registered Democrat, but membership hardly exists in any other meaningful sense other than people being elected to the party structures, which is really a very small percentage of the population. And Karen Bernal, as the chair of the largest state party's Progressive Caucus, the California Democratic Party, what are your thoughts on that, Karen?
Well, before I answer that, I want to just also point out we've lost 1,000 seats across the country in legislative houses, and really we're at this point, and this all happened during the 8 years of Obama. We are now only in control of 6 of those states, out of all of the states, 6. So, and this was a long time coming, let's face it, after all. I think part of the problem that Hillary Clinton had was she was seen as a standard bearer for so many policies that we were now, and the electorate, the base of the party, was in utter rejection of. And unfortunately for her, all of these things, the depression of the African American vote in the final 4 years of Obama's administration, the rise of social movements rejecting neoliberal policies, it all came home. It came home to roost in the 2016 election. And so it was a perfect or terrible storm. Regarding the party, I think one thing that we can see, at least speaking as someone who is a delegate to a large state party, who finds herself quite often in a lot of battles of the delegates up against party leadership, we have found that everything resides in how a party is structured and also the rules. And you will find, just like we did just recently with the DNC meeting in Las Vegas, the party at least has to give lip service and acknowledgement to the barbarians at the gate, so to speak, and the people that are pushing. So in this regard, they passed some pretty progressive resolutions. Now, resolutions, and I don't want to minimize the importance of that, because at least it is some sort of acknowledgement and recognition of the fact of the mindset and the sentiment that is out there with a Democratic base. And they passed resolutions about voter disenfranchisement and also about not accepting corporate money if those corporations did not promote their values, I think was the wording. But this doesn't matter because those resolutions are non-binding, and what's more, at the same time, they did consolidate power in their purges of the very small number of people that were sitting on the Rules and Bylaws Committee. Now that Rules and Bylaws Committee is bereft of anyone that supported Bernie Sanders or Keith Ellison, and this Rules and Bylaws Committee will be the body that determines the process and rules and procedures for the next presidential election. When you combine that with the appointment of corporate lobbyists that to the at-large committees and to the superdelegates, what you begin to see is, one, we were going to put out there for consumption we recognize and we have these progressive resolutions that we've passed, But at the same time, behind the scenes, what they're doing is consolidating power even more, and also rewarding the extremely wealthy donor class. And that's another trend that we're seeing that I think needs to be written about even more, which is that the donor class has been rewarded, and that, in fact, I mentioned earlier about some progressive candidates that have decided to run for office as part of this wave of progressive populism. Part of the answer from the party has been to put up corporate candidates who themselves, the common thread seems to be that they themselves in the past were wealthy donors, or they were bundlers for wealthy donors. So we're beginning to see the wealthy donor class stepping up to run for office. So that's one of the things that I think is going to be developing even more as we go forward.